Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. I feel like nothing is happening. This transfer window hasn't gone the way we wanted it to. We have to ask some serious questions about that in today's video. And we've also got a story which has kind of came out of nowhere, which relates to one of our key players leaving the club. So not only are we not signing players, but we're looking at maybe one of our best leaving. It's not how I expected January to go. If you haven't already, please make sure to hit like and subscribe. It'd be very much appreciated. If you do hear the wind battering against the walls in this video, please keep in mind I don't control the weather. I'm not the one that's commissioning this storm to be a thing. So sorry about that if you do hear it. If no, let's just get on with things. But hit those two buttons, it would mean a lot. And let's talk about what has been a very frustrating window for Celtic. There's still a week to go, and Celtic could realistically conclude some business in the January transfer window in that week. But let's be real and let's cut to the chase here. Celtic have been really disappointing in this January window. We have signed one player in the first 23 days of the window in a position which I don't think many people thought that we needed a player in, and we have been linked with nobody else that looks as though will be joining the club anytime soon. It has been very, very poor. A big, sense of negligence coming over us here from the Celtic board. I can't say that I'm surprised. I don't think many of us are surprised. And Brendan Rodgers must be thinking to himself, I asked for quality week after week after week through that Champions League campaign, through those tough games in the league. And that quality that I've asked for doesn't seem to be coming from anywhere. Now, I'll sit here and hold my hands up and say I think I've been one of the more patient Celtic fans in this window. I think that I've been a little bit more understanding. I said coming into this window that it wasn't going to be the quick fix. I knew it was going to be perhaps a letdown of a window, slightly frustrating. And ultimately, I think that leading to this point now, as we sit here on January 23rd, I think I've been, reasonably calm. But now that we do only have a week to go, and now that we are, quickly approaching the end of this window, I am starting to feel a bit annoyed. I am starting to feel a little bit shortchanged, and once again, all those problems that we've been talking about for years at Celtic Football Club seem to be, bubbling away again. And is that going to be fixed? I don't think so. I don't know what happens in this next week. We said that we needed a goalkeeper, a left back, a striker. We've addressed none of those areas. The players that we have been linked to in those areas don't seem to be joining the club. They've gone quiet, and the board don't seem any closer to looking at, alternatives. This is where we are now. It is very disappointing. We have a week to go. Celtic need to move. They need to act fast. Are we gambling the league title? That's the question on everyone's mind. I don't want to be a panic merchant because I'm still confident that we can win the league this season. We're in a strong position right now, maybe not as strong as it should be, but we are, top of the table with a bit of breathing room. And I believe we still have a squad that has the quality to get it over the line. But when you look at Rangers in this window, it looks as though they have a bit more ambition than Celtic, which is strange because their board has been getting lambasted by their fans for years as well now. But it seems they have more ambition. They're willing to go out and try and win what is ultimately a very important league title. This is a league title that has millions of pounds on the line and can, help kind of form the picture of Scottish football for the next few years. They realise that. They're going for it. They're getting linked with players. They're getting linked with signings. Meanwhile, us over here, we are gambling this league title. I don't want to be a panic merchant, but the board need to wake up, smell the coffee and realise that. Because this is not going to be an easy league title to win. And we don't have a massive squad. We have a good 11, and we have a couple of good players who can come on, change games, whatever. But in terms of a full squad, if we get into another injury crisis, which we've already been in this season, suddenly you're staring at the same problems that we've had through October, November, December, and ultimately it becomes such a difficult ask once again. The board can't gamble this title. We need to win the league. We need that automatic Champions League qualification, and we need those 40, 50, 60 million pounds, whatever it is nowadays, to come to the bank account of Celtic. Granted, we probably won't spend that money because that's the way we work, but we need to stop it from going to the other side. We can't gamble these titles. I'm confident we'll win it, but there's no point in, leaving it up for grabs, creating a challenge that you don't need to be in. And this window has been a lot of that for Celtic. So, yeah, on the 23rd of January, I'm starting to get a little bit agitated with Celtic's lack of business, and that needs addressed. I'm not surprised, but that needs to change. That is something we will have to talk about day in, day out for the next week. Should any news, any rumours start to come out from the ground somewhere, we will talk about them, and we will talk about the window. Because listen, if we end the window with those positions addressed, then fine, I'll hold my hands up and say, okay, the Celtic board went and addressed the positions we need to. We've made the signings. But it's just the closer we get to the end, the closer it starts to look like it's not going to happen. So we will have to change our opinions and update our thoughts as the week goes on, ultimately. But we need strengthening, and we don't need weakening, which might be happening because one of our key players looks like they could leave the club potentially. Liel Abada, he has been in a bit of a strange situation this season. Of course, he spent the majority of the campaign sidelined with that big injury. He recently returned in the derby match against Rangers right before the new year. He also started at the weekend against Buckie Thistle. However, there is now questions over his Celtic future, as the Daily Mail discovered that a few clubs over Europe, and including the English Championship, are exploring the opportunity of loaning out Liel Abada for the rest of the season. This was the headline, broke today around 2 o'clock. Exclusive: Celtic winger Liel Abada, a loan target for clubs in England, France and Germany. That was the story by Stephen McGowan today, which follows on from months of speculation that Liel Abada could leave the club due to circumstances which none of us as fans can really control. And people that don't support Celtic will ultimately have their say on this, and they will, they'll say what they want to say. We're going to have to talk about a very delicate situation. There's a lot of things that you can say here and you can't say here. We're going to have to talk about it. I'm going to try and do it as best I can with a sensitive issue. Of course, Liel Abada, first and foremost, is the guy that's got to make a decision for his future. So we'll talk about the details of the article very quickly before we get on to, as I said, what is quite a sensitive issue. The Daily Mail article goes on to explain that Liel Abada is a loan target for West Brom, Southampton and Watford this month, and it's claimed that clubs from Ligue 1 and the Bundesliga are also keeping tabs on the situation and ask, in quotation marks, if the Scottish Premiership leaders would be open to allowing the Israel international to leave the club this month on a loan deal. And there doesn't seem to be anything there to suggest that there will be an option to buy or an obligation to buy. It just seems to be a 6-month loan deal, which is further explained in the article why that is. The Daily Mail article goes on to say that Abada has found his situation challenging and that a 6-month loan would offer him time and space to review the situation this summer. West Brom are said to be preparing to join Watford, Southampton and clubs from France and Germany in pursuing a deal. Celtic have no desire to lose Liel Abada in this second half of the season. The Daily Mail also goes on to say that. So they don't want to let him go. They don't want that to happen. But Liel Abada, however, apparently wants a bit of time and space to review his situation at Celtic, which I get. It's justified, and it obviously asks a whole list of questions which we can't really begin to understand. My views on the situation regarding Israel and Palestine and Gaza have been made very clear if you have watched me long enough. Politically, I have a stance which pretty much aligns with the majority of the Celtic support. Some of the Celtic support probably couldn't give two tosses. They probably don't care what's going on. And people will have differing opinions. What I want to make very clear in this video is this is not a political video. I don't want to let my opinion on the situation kind of take the story anywhere or influence my opinion on what I'm going to say here. I'm just saying that if you know me, you will know I have a stance and you will know I have political views, which I stand by, and morally and ethically, I believe in those stances. I will stand by those stances, and nothing's going to change that for me because it's just the way I am as an individual. It's my political beliefs, and everybody's entitled to their own. So I've got mine, and if you know what that is, that's what it is. Liel Abada here is in no doubt an incredibly challenging situation. These past few months with the escalation of the Palestine-Israel conflict has probably got his head in a space which we'll probably never really be able to understand here in Scotland. That's being truthful. And he's probably feeling kind of backed into a corner with the stance of the majority of the Celtic support. We are a support that align our beliefs with the Palestinian people. We display that at Celtic Park. It's the reason why the Green Brigade were locked out of the stadium for a number of matches in a couple of months. Liel Abada, amongst that, has got to sit there, being an Israeli national, and see that. And that probably doesn't really bode well with him. That's his position. It's not mine to comment on. This has turned the situation for Liel Abada into a really tricky one because so many people have urged Liel Abada to leave Celtic. Israeli teammates have told him he's to go. His national team manager has told him he's to go. His national team manager branded the Celtic support as anti-Semitic. Former Celtic player Nir Beaton came out and openly criticised the Celtic support for their opinions, actions and views over his entire time at Celtic, at a time where Liel Abada was probably in a bit of a tricky one. And ultimately, I think Liel Abada has struggled. There was articles going on to suggest that Liel Abada's even had threats from the country about leaving Celtic and that he should do that. He is in a really difficult spot right now, and him needing 6 months to figure out what he wants to do and what's best for him, I can completely understand. Which is why I can hold my hands up in this moment and say I completely get it if he wants to leave the club. It doesn't change my political view on anything. I have my stance. I'm not going to sit here and criticise Liel Abada despite the side of the fence that I'm on. But I understand it 100%. If he wants to leave, he should be allowed to leave. Liel Abada is a terrific footballer. And you've got to remember, he came into this Celtic side at such a young age. And the first game we played in a competitive level, he was ushered into the side against Midtjylland back in 2021, and Ange Postecoglou's first competitive game in charge, and he was brilliant. He was brilliant from that very day. From the age of 18, 19 when he signed from the club, he has been massive for us. He's been a fan favourite. He's been a brilliant footballer, and on that account of things, I don't want to see Liel Abada leave Celtic because I think he's great. I think he's got so many more years to offer to this club, so many more goals and assists to offer to this club. I just think he's a brilliant footballer, and I would love to see him stay. But when you take in this real life scenario, which is probably tearing his mind apart, and everything that goes alongside that, I get it if he wants to go. And I wouldn't sit here and say that we shouldn't let him go. As much as Celtic have a desire to keep him around at the club for the next 6 months, it's probably one of those ones that's best for both parties just to let him leave. I think a 6-month loan deal would be smart to see him go and explore these options elsewhere and see if he wants to leave the club. Because Celtic, at the end of the day, should be demanding a big fee for this. Isn't somebody I would just let go for the sake of it either. You need the money on the table. He's a young guy who's been really, really good for Celtic, who should see us demanding quite a large fee for him. So if he was to leave in the summer, we need that. And it maybe explains why Nicholas Kuhn has been prioritised as well in this window. Maybe Celtic knew all along that this was going to happen, and they decided to bring in another right winger. But my end point being, if the right money is there and it's best for both parties, it probably would be smart to let him go. Because God knows if he'll ever really feel the same playing for Celtic. He looked great at the weekend. He looked fine. He got an assist in there, and he looked great when he came back on against Rangers. I'd like to see him be able to put everything, into the back of his mind and keep playing for the club. But that ain't easy. That's not an easy ask whatsoever. It'd be some cheek to say that. Put it in the back of your mind, get on with it. You can't say that. So could he leave? Maybe. I think that there's a very real possibility he could in this window. Brendan Rodgers did say that the player's happy here at the moment a couple of weeks ago when he was asked, so who knows, we'll just need to wait and see. I'm hoping he does stay with us, in all honesty, but I completely understand if he wants to leave. It's a very touchy situation. As I said, I don't want to get too political with it today, but I will watch how that develops. However, if he does leave in this window, once again, it brings so many question marks and real worries over this January window, because you're effectively letting one of the club's best players leave without strengthening in the window. Yeah, we've brought in someone in the same position. Great, I understand that. Hopefully Nicholas Kuhn is as good, or if not better than Abada. That would be fantastic. But there's no guarantee of that, and we haven't strengthened anywhere else yet to say we're fine with Abada going. So the club need to get their finger out. They need to start recruiting. They need to start signing players. You've got a week to do it. And if you've been doing your due diligence, if you've been behind the scenes looking at the right players and making sure you're signing ones of real quality, then hurry up and put bids in. Hurry up and get moving. Because if Abada goes, that's another key player down. Right then, that's us for today. If you've enjoyed the video, make sure to hit like and subscribe. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And hopefully over the next week, Celtic actually do something in this window to change their opinions and their thoughts in regards to this window. But I wouldn't count your chickens, because there's no guarantee of that. Anyway, like and subscribe, and I'll see you all next time.